Alright, so this is my fourth part in my series, the fourth beast, the eagle. And for this video, I am going to be assuming that you watched the first three parts. So if you haven't done that already, go ahead and do so before watching this one. So without that out of the way, let's dive right in. So, if you guys haven't noticed already, in the last videos I have done, I did not cover the beast that is described in Revelations. And part of the reason why I didn't do that is because at the time I didn't quite understand what was read in Revelations about the beast as I did the passages in Daniel and 2nd Ezra's. So, but since then, I think I have a little bit more of a clear understanding of what it means. So, let's start reading this. Revelations chapter 13. And I stood upon the sand of the sea. Oh, hold up. My recording's messing up. Whoops. Alright, let's start that over. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him power, and his seat, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? So right off the bat, we can clearly see that the beast in Revelations is described very differently than what is described in 2nd Ezra's, right? It's a leopard with bare feet and a lion mouth, which is completely different than a flying eagle. So it's kind of like it's describing two different things. And it is and it isn't at the same time. We'll get into that later. But it is important to make note that the fourth beast is made up of the 3 beasts that come before it. And those 3 beasts are the ones that are mentioned in Daniel's vision, which is the lion, the bear, and the leopard. So let's continue with the verses. So, verse 5, And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. So that's 3.5 years. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. So this guy's pretty powerful. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life, of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So in other words, it's basically saying he has power and dominion over the entire globe. Right? So jumping to Daniel chapter 7, verse 19, it reads, Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceedingly dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. In verse 7 it reads, After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. So one really important thing to note is that the other horn, or the little horn, is not actually a part of the first 10 horns, right? It first describes 10 horns, and then it describes another or an additional little horn on top of that. So there's really 11 horns total. Also, if you're wondering why I keep going back to the previous slide, for some reason, the way I'm recording it likes to, it'll still be recording this screen, but then for some reason it'll jump to the last slide on my screen. So I have to, well, if I want to keep reading it, I have to kind of mess around with it to make it work. Anyways, so continuing with chapter 7. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time, and times, and a dividing of time. So again, it's saying the little horn is actually not part of the first group of 10 horns. It is its own thing entirely. And as far as time and times and the dividing of time, I didn't actually figure this one out myself. The meaning of this I came across, from other people who speculate about prophecies like this. But what it really means is time equals 1 year. So time, and this is, I think it has to do with something about how it's translated from Hebrew or something. I can't remember off the top of my head why it's the case. But time means 1 year. Times would mean 2 years. And the dividing of time would be like half of a time. Or in other words, half of a year. So 1 plus 2 plus a half is 3.5. So we got 3.5 years. Which this adds up because in Revelations it talked about the beast having dominion for 42 months, which is also 3.5 years. So this is correct. This means 3.5 years. Time and times and the dividing of time. So jumping now to Revelation chapter 17, it reads, And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman set upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So we know that the beast in Revelations is the same thing as the beast that's talked about in Daniel, in the book of Daniel. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery: Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. So in verse 10, when it says kings, it actually means kingdoms. I noticed in 2nd Esdras, sometimes when it says kings or kingdoms, it actually refers to the other. So I figured, what if instead of kings, what if it actually meant kingdoms? And that's where I kind of started to figure this all out. So the beast is the 8th kingdom that is of the 7th kingdom, or like at least of the 7 previous kingdoms, right? And so this is where I'm going to kind of make my own claim here. So I believe the sixth kingdom is actually referring to Rome. And the reason why I think this is the case, because verse 10 reads, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and this vision that John had would have taken place while Rome was, in its full might, pretty much. So it would make sense if it refers to Rome, and the other is not yet come. Well, one of the nations that is very comparable to Rome would be, like, as far as how much power and influence it has in its time, would be the United States. So I think the 7th kingdom refers to the United States. And the 8th, I think, refers to the eagle heads. And I'll get more in detail at the end of the video. But as far as the 7 mountains are concerned, I did not come up with this myself. I got this idea from someone else, some other video. And this makes sense. So here we have the world map right here. And if you notice, you can count 7 continents. You've got North America, South America, Antarctica, Australia, Africa, Asia, Europe. So the 7 heads could very, very easily refer to, the 7 mountains could very easily refer to the continents of the globe. Right? After all, these land masses, in comparison with the ocean floor, are pretty much ginormous mountains or land masses. And in one of the verses, it reads, the 7 heads are 7 mountains. And if that really is referring to the continents, that pretty much implies that the beast would have power or dominion over the entire world, which is very consistent with, the passages we've been reading. Now, an interesting thing to know is, imagine if you're John, right, and you see a vision of the entire globe. You might actually think, well, you probably wouldn't be able to distinguish Europe from Asia as 2 separate mounts or continents. So this is why I have this picture down here, which shows the accurate scaling of the continent sizes, or at least a more accurate size. And if you notice, you can still count 7 land masses on this bottom picture here, where you would combine Europe and Asia as one, South America, Australia, Antarctica, so we've got 4, plus South America, North America, and Greenland. So perhaps maybe John saw in his vision all the continents and land masses, and perhaps he saw Greenland as its own mountain, or maybe not. It doesn't really matter. They both add up to 7, either or. So that's really good to note. So now let's jump to 2nd Ezra chapter 11. And here it reads, "And I beheld, and lo, the 2 that remained thought also in themselves to reign. And when they so thought, behold, there awaked one of the heads that were at rest, namely, it that was in the mists, for that was greater than the 2 other heads. And then I saw that the 2 other heads were joined with it. And behold, the head was turned with them that were with it, and did eat up the 2 feathers under the wing that would have reigned. But this head put the whole earth in fear, and bare rule in it over all those that dwelt upon the earth with much oppression, and had the governance of the world more than all the wings that had been. And after this I beheld, and lo, the head that was in the mists suddenly appeared no more, like as the wings." So this little horn sounds very... the eagle head sound very familiar to the little horn, right? They kind of... if you take a look at the passages and you compare some of the verses like this, they are described very, very similarly. So continuing, "But there remained the 2 heads, which also in like sort ruled upon the earth, and over those that dwelt therein. And I beheld, and lo, the head upon the right side devoured it that was upon the left side. Then I heard a voice which said unto me, Look before thee, and consider the thing that thou seest. And I beheld, and lo, as it were a roaring lion chased out of the wood. And I saw that he sent out a man's voice unto the eagle, and said, Hear thou, I will talk with thee, and the highest shall say unto thee, Art thou not thou it that remainest of the 4 beasts, whom I made to reign in my world, that the end of their times might come through them? And the 4th came and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world with great fearfulness, and over the whole compass of the earth with much wicked oppression. And so long time dwelt he upon the earth with the deceit. For the earth hast thou not judged with truth, for thou hast afflicted the meek, thou hast hurt the peaceable, thou hast loved liars, and destroyed the dwellings of them that brought forth fruit, and hast cast down the walls of such as did thee no harm. Therefore is thy wrongful dealing come up unto the highest, and thy pride unto the mighty. The highest also hath looked upon the proud times, and behold, they are ended, and his abominations are fulfilled. And therefore appear no more, thou eagle, nor thy horrible wings, nor thy wicked feathers, nor thy malicious heads, nor thy hurtful claws, nor all thy vain body, that all the earth may be refreshed, and may return, being delivered from thy violence, and that she may hope for the judgments and mercy of him that made her. So, in verse 42, when it reads, Destroy the dwellings of them that brought forth fruit, when it's talking about the saints in that verse. Right, so in other words, it's saying you've destroyed the dwellings and houses of the saints. This is also mentioned in another chapter in 2nd Esdras. It's either chapter 15 or 16. It's one of the two. Anyways, let's continue. And whereas thou sawest 3 heads resting, this is the interpretation. In his last days shall the Most High raise up 3 kingdoms, and renew many things therein, and they shall have the dominion of the earth, and of those that dwell therein with much oppression, above all those that were before them, Therefore are they called the heads of the eagle. For these are they that shall accomplish his wickedness, and that shall finish his last end. So recall that John described the beast as being a leopard, with the feet of a bear and the mouth of a lion. So these were three symbols Daniel used to describe the first three beasts in his vision. Then also notice that we've got in verse 23, it says, "And the Most High shall raise up three kingdoms, and renew many things therein." Right, very interesting parallel here. We've got three symbols and three kingdoms. And I think that's referring to this. And then also the lion is referring to Britain or the United Kingdom. The bear is Russia. I'm not sure what the leopard is, but it's got to be something. We don't necessarily need to know what the leopard is. So that's good to note. Also recall that the beast is the eighth kingdom, that is of the seven. And this makes the most sense if the United States, which is the eagle, would be the seventh kingdom. Right, so I hope I'm starting to paint a more clearer picture on how the relationship between the three different passages, how they relate to each other. Right, the key takeaways from this video is that the first eagle head, or just all three of them, doesn't matter, and the little horn are practically the same thing. They reign for about 3.5 years. The little horn comes after the 10 horns and subdues 3 kings/horns, while the eagle heads come after the 20 feathers and consume the last 2 feathers. So these are very close in their similarity. The 7 heads represent the continents. In other words, the beast has dominion over the entire globe, which is already stressed enough already in the passage. And Rome would be the 6th kingdom. The United States is the 7th kingdom. We don't know what the first 5 are. I assume Babylon's probably one of the first. And the beast is the 8th. Also, the beast is of the 7 or 7th, which means the 7th and 8th kingdoms are practically the same thing. Except I think the 8th is more like a transformation of the 7th. The 4th beast in Daniel's vision is made up of the beast that came before it. Right, so that's one other thing to note. And this has a very interesting parallel with verse 23 of 2nd Ezra chapter 12, where it talks about 3 kingdoms or separate kingdoms being raised up after all the 20 feathers reign. So yeah, so the biggest, probably one of the biggest takeaways from this video is this last bullet point, where I think the United States is like an act 1 of this whole thing, and the beast, or like the real beast, when the little horn or when the eagle heads come into play, is like an act 2. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys took something out from it, learned something. Stick around for the next part. Hopefully I can get that out pretty soon. And with that out of the way, see you guys next time.